All right, well, welcome back to News Talk with Brandon and Bob, and we're going to switch gears to a brand new topic, and that's homeschooling.
Right in the chest. Right in the chest.
And very recently, we were just talking moments ago about this kind of rise of authoritarianism, and we're seeing that in other aspects too, and that's as far as education. And this is from the Harvard magazine. I just want to read something out of it. There's a professor up there. Her name is Elizabeth Bartholet. She's a public interest professor of law and faculty director of the law school's child advocacy program. And she's recommending a presumptive ban on the practice of homeschooling. And she says homeschooling not only violates the children's right to a meaningful education and their right to be protected from potential abuse, but may keep them from contributing positively to a democratic society. So, Brandon, what I wanted to do is, you're like the perfect person.
You're just going to let me tear into this poor lady and how absolutely absurd all of her arguments are, or what? Yeah, well, she doesn't really make arguments; she just makes presumptions.
Yeah, and hopefully you had a chance to take a look at what she had to say.
I have a whole list of things.
So you've homeschooled a number of your kids.
Yeah, 3 of my kids are homeschooled, beginning with Jake at 5th grade. And that was a decision that was made because of him being bullied at school and the lack of the school's response and administration dealing with that. And then the 2 girls were both homeschooled, and a lot of that stemmed from the budget cuts to the gifted program, the way they were not sort of like triaging them and advancing them in the proper speed with their skill set. So we homeschooled them their whole career. Wildly successful. Sierra graduated actually early because she was able to dual enroll, those kinds of things. And I could not believe the phrase that she actually used of meaningful education. Yep. Like, the public schools are just so wonderful. And I went back and looked at just a few things, and I was like, wait a minute. So, we're always being told that we have constant safety concerns with our schools. They're always unsafe. That they focus on standardized testing, so they fall completely behind compared to other countries on they get no government, they get no social studies, the science is lagging behind now, all these other extraneous things. History is completely abolished, hardly any history, and it's all revisionist history with a very certain narrow focus, right? The bullying's out of control, overcrowding's out of control, and by the way, there is a lot of abuse in the school. I found some data. So my data, 2004, the Education Department estimated 1 in 10 students have been sexually abused by their teacher. That's 1 in 10. But Slate called this an epidemic in 2012, so just in 8 years. And then in 2017, we have the most recent data that I was actually able to find and verify came from 2017. And it said the kids from 8th to 11th grade, 7%, so 3.5 million students have reported at least some sort of physical sexual content from an adult, a teacher or a coach. Now, that also does include, though, unwanted touching. So there can be things that may not have been sexual intercourse, but it could have been some sort of groping or some sort of intimidation, but things that would have classified as sexual harassment within the normal parameters of a business environment. And now they're saying that this stat is predicted to be at least 10%, which is 4.5 million kids. So not quite as wonderful as she thinks it is, in my opinion.
But she thinks it's a threat to U.S. democracy.
Sure she does.
Yeah. What about the education? How do you compare the education between homeschooling and, I guess she's promoting the public school system here?
So the one thing for us that we discovered really quickly was, and I've always recommended with folks as they're even determining if they should homeschool or not, and obviously during the outbreak, a lot of folks have been forced to work with their kids at home, is one, there are a lot of resources. It is not difficult to get books, to get online courses. Most counties and states offer free online courses. Now, it's basically the same curriculum. So if you want to make a change for curriculum reasons, that's not the way to go. But there are those options, and our kids took advantage of every angle you can think of. Mm-hmm. The one thing for us is we were able to identify their weaknesses so we can slow them down and build them up appropriately so they get stronger in their weaknesses.
Or possibly speed it up.
if it's weaker, we slow them down to make sure they get stronger at it. If it's things that they're already good at and they enjoy, we speed them up.
Right.
So my daughter, for instance, liked to read. So Sierra liked to read. She would read way ahead of her grade level. We just kept giving her another one and another one and another one. So her advancement and her, like I said, she graduated early, and college was a breeze because her reading skills were off the chart. Right? Her math skills were off the chart. She was very independent. Whereas another one of our children were not good at math. So we slowed that down, spent time to make sure we got those skills, and we at least made sure that the rudimentary skills are there. Were they going to be able to excel at, let's say, college calculus? Probably not. It would probably take a while longer for them to get further educated to get to that point. But they were able to pass the entrance exams for college, take the math requirements that they needed, get the certificates or degrees that they were seeking. I think that it also allowed us to be more flexible with electives. So whereas you may be in a school where you have very limited electives that they can take, some of our kids had needed electives that, first one's interested in sign language, so she was able to pursue that hardcore and get like 4 different classes, whereas a school might offer 1. Right, one is in photography, so we're able to not only find one class, we're able to go online and find photography for some of the greatest experts. And obviously, YouTube, you have people who are making livings doing many of these different things. I was able to give her expertise from someone who has 5 million followers. He's recognized as one of the biggest YouTubers in the nation, is a photography expert, to train her on how to be better at that. Is that something that will form a career or not? I don't know. But they're interested in it, and it was challenging to develop them. There were no gaps. The very first time we were evaluating, by the way, she does bold-faced lie on that. I actually had that marked. There's a paragraph later on, and she says, quote, that despite the even apparent requirements such as submitting curriculum and providing evidence that teaching and learning are taking place, she says it's not necessarily enforced. I'm not going to speak for the 49 other states.
But definitely Florida.
We not only had to, we have to fill out forms. We meet with most of these advisors. This is not some quick thing. First time we went in, my wife brought the thing in, and she looked at us and says, "You're doing too much." We had to refocus on how to make sure that we were not just because they get through a book didn't mean that they go through another book, right? Schools, and just to compare and contrast, our kids were finishing public school, and they'd be on page 90. Because they started teaching for the FCATs and SATs and that kind of thing. Our entire kids would go through 2 full math books in a school year, 1 for each semester, without any problems, without any issues, and we were testing for retention to make sure they got it, we move on. Sometimes the busy work was getting in the way. So I find it disgusting that we're going to follow the lead of European countries where it's completely banned. Like if you go to Germany, there's been custody cases with people for religious reasons who try to homeschool their kids. All over the EU, it's very commonplace. They've taken this right away for you to take responsibility of educating your child. Right. And the shift to public education has totally gotten away. We've shortchanged all of the sectors that involve trade studies. So we have massive shortages of people who know how to do plumbing, types of engineering that involve physical labor and motor work instead of just going to be electrical engineers. We have those. They're great, high-paying jobs. But when it comes to doing hard repair work on machinery, we have a massive shortage of people. Those people are making a ton of money because there's no one doing it. They're all being told they should go to college. Well, not everybody wants to go to college. Not everybody should go to college.
Well, something else she said that's pretty interesting.
No, it's awful.
It's like... This is the role of a teacher, apparently. She argues that one benefit of sending children to school at age 4 or 5 is that teachers are mandated reporters, required to alert authorities of signs of child abuse. Is that what teachers' jobs are?
I didn't, but I love the fact that that's what they call it. Like it's somehow... So I understand the perspective. If you see it, you should report it, right? Kids have bruises, they should be reported. That is, by definition, what I thought that term meant when you read the handbooks and stuff, was they're kind of letting you know teachers are mandated to report. But she's making it seem almost like tattletales and narcs that are going around looking for things, trying to coerce the fact that there's this incredible crisis and epidemic. I have not read, I try to find studies and data that try to show that. I got to be honest, everything I'm showing is a massive problem where teachers are doing something to the children, not from the parents at home.
And just to close this out, something that really irritated me too, which said, quote, the issue is, do we think that parents should have 24/7 essentially authoritarian control over their children until they're age 18?
I don't know.
Should the state?
Well, I also thought, who has 24 hours control of your kid? Like, even when they're homeschooled, it wasn't like they were in my house under lock and key. It gave us more flexibility with extracurricular activities, because if they had to be somewhere at 3, we could get them in classes and stuff that would start earlier in the day, because not all schools ended at the same time. They were in different age groups and that kind of thing. So we were able to really save resources. They could be in more things because you had a broader window that you could work with. You didn't have to go pick up one kid when elementary school ended over here, and then 2 hours later this one ends at middle school over there. It's just pure insanity. And the idea of closeted homeschoolers, there is something to be said for some of that. We have met some that are a little more naive and closeted, but so what? Is that the worst thing in the world? Is that someone they have not been worldly enough for you yet? I mean, it's a crazy argument to make when you have actual abuse, alcoholism, drug use, bullying, all these different issues in schools as it is.
She clearly likes state control. But I encourage viewers, I'll go ahead and link to this article down below. Are you pro homeschooling? Do you agree with the author? Please comment below. We want to hear what you have to say.